The smell of lilies made me nauseous. It clung to my skin, sweet and heavy and wrong. Everyone kept saying they were Mom's favorite, but that wasn't true. She hated lilies, said they reminded her of endings. But of course, no one had asked her what she'd want for her own funeral. No one asked me either. They just arranged things and expected me to show up, sit in the front row, and not fall apart. I did 2 out of 3. The church was colder than it should have been for late spring. Or maybe that was just me. Grief has a way of freezing everything. People moved around me like ghosts in dark clothes. Neighbors, old coworkers, distant cousins. They murmured soft condolences like I was glass that might shatter if they looked too long. But I didn't care about their sorries. I kept staring at the closed casket and thinking how strange it was that the woman who gave me life now fit into a box I couldn't open. Then I saw her. I hadn't expected her to come. I hadn't even thought she'd know. But there she was, standing in the back like a shadow that had taken shape just to ruin me.
Sloane.
7 years, and I still recognized her instantly. The sharp line of her jaw. The way she held herself like the world was an audience. Her hair was shorter now, curled behind her ears, her black suit tailored and perfect. But her eyes, those dark, stormy eyes, were the same. And they were looking at me. I froze. The world shifted sideways. My stomach twisted, and every carefully constructed wall inside me cracked just a little. She didn't move, didn't smile, just stared. I turned away before I could drown in her. The service was a blur. I barely heard the eulogy. My fingers curled around the edge of the pew, knuckles white, breath shallow. I didn't cry. Not there. Not in front of her. When it was over, people came up to hug me, to offer words that meant nothing. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you. I nodded, thanked them, smiled when I had to, but I kept my eyes down. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't risk it.
Not yet.
Not again. Outside, the sun was too bright, a cruel contrast to the grief lodged in my chest. I made it to the edge of the parking lot before I felt her behind me. The air shifted. My skin prickled. I didn't have to turn to know it was her.
Avery, she said.
My name. In her voice. Like a wound reopening. I closed my eyes. You shouldn't be here. I know. Then why are you? Because she mattered to me too. I turned then, slowly. Every part of me braced for the impact. Don't. Her expression faltered. She did. You lost the right to say that when you left. I didn't come to fight. Then you came to what? Twist the knife. Her jaw tightened. To pay my respects. To see you. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Congratulations. You've seen me. You can go now. Avery, please. Don't say my name again. Her eyes flickered. Hurt.
Good.
Let her feel it. Let her feel even a fraction of what I did when she walked away without a goodbye. 7 years. 7 years and not a word. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. And now she stood here, in the ruin of my worst day, acting like she had any right. I didn't know she passed until yesterday, she said quietly. I flew in as soon as I could. You're 3 days too late. I'm sorry. No, you're not. I stepped back. I couldn't breathe around her. I couldn't think. You always knew how to show up at the worst possible moment. Avery, I know you hate me. But you broke me. The words ripped out of me before I could stop them. You took everything good and ran. And now you want what?
Redemption?
Closure?
She didn't speak.
Her silence screamed. Go back to whatever life you made without me, I whispered. You don't belong here. You're right, she said finally, voice raw. But I couldn't stay away. I turned and walked.
Fast.
My heels sank into the grass, my hands shaking. I didn't look back. Not even when I heard her say my name again. I spent the rest of the day buried in formalities. The reception was at my aunt's house. People drank, told stories, smiled through tears. I sat on the edge of it all, nodding when required, barely tasting the food on my plate. I didn't speak unless spoken to. I kept waiting for her to show up again. She didn't. That night, I went home to the house I'd grown up in. Everything smelled like her, lemon oil and lavender. I sat on the floor of the living room, surrounded by boxes I couldn't open yet, photos I couldn't look at. And then, as if summoned by thought, there was a knock at the door. I knew it was her. My body knew it before my brain did. I opened the door, and there she was, her hand still raised from knocking, eyes searching mine. "You didn't leave," I said. "I couldn't." "Why?" She hesitated. "Because you looked at me like you still hate me. And that means I still matter." My chest burned. "What do you want from me?" "Just a moment." "To do what?" "To say the things I should have said years ago." "And then what?" "Then I'll leave. If that's what you want." I stared at her, unsure if I was still made of bones or if she'd melted everything soft again. "You have 5 minutes," I said. "After that, you're gone." She nodded. I stepped aside and let the woman who broke my heart walk back into the house where I once loved her. I don't know what I expected to feel when Sloane crossed that threshold again. Maybe fury. Maybe panic. Maybe something colder, something easier to hold onto than the way my chest tightened just looking at her. She stepped inside like the floor might reject her, like the house would remember what she did and crack open beneath her feet. I almost wanted it to. She looked around like everything was familiar and foreign all at once. Her eyes paused on the fireplace mantel where a photo of my mother sat surrounded by candles. Then they dropped to the carpet, to the spot where we'd kissed for the first time, where I'd curled into her and whispered "I love you" like it would save us. I wondered if she remembered that.
I hope she did.
I hated that I hoped. "You have 4 minutes," I said, closing the door behind her. She flinched like I'd slapped her. "Okay. Say whatever you came to say." She swallowed. "I've started this conversation in my head 100 different ways." "Pick one." "I left because I was scared." "You left without a word." "I know." "You disappeared." "I know that too." Her voice cracked. "I thought if I could just walk away clean, it would hurt less." "For who? You or me?" "Both." "That's not how love works." "It's not," she said. "But I didn't know that then." I crossed my arms. "You knew enough to take everything and leave me with nothing." "I was 22 and drowning in the idea that I didn't deserve you." "Don't," I snapped. "Don't turn this into some noble sacrifice." It wasn't noble. It was cowardice. It was selfish. I won't defend it. I just want you to know that it wasn't because I stopped loving you. It was because I didn't know how to love you the right way. My throat burned. "And you think showing up at my mom's funeral makes up for that?"
No.
"Nothing makes up for it. But I couldn't let you go through this without showing up. Without letting you know that I still don't," I said again, softer this time. "Don't say it unless you're sure." She stepped closer. I've never been more sure. I hated her for being here. I hated her for making me feel this again. But I hated myself more for how much I wanted to believe her. I sat on the edge of the couch, too tired to fight.
She didn't sit.
She stood across from me, watching me like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to breathe. "The day I left," she said, "I packed a bag and drove for hours. I didn't answer anyone's calls. I told myself it would be easier to forget you if I didn't look back. Did it work?" She shook her head.
No.
"I saw you everywhere. Every bookstore. Every song. Every damn sunrise that looked like the ones we used to watch from your bedroom window." "You don't get to be poetic about this," I whispered. "You don't get to romanticize what you did." "I'm not trying to." "Then why now? Why come back after all this time?" "Because I heard about your mom, and I knew you'd be alone. And I knew that if I didn't come, I'd regret it for the rest of my life." "You don't know anything about my life anymore." "I want to." My breath caught. "It's too late." "Maybe," she said, "but I had to try." We were silent for a long time. She moved to the window, looked out at the garden my mother used to tend like a sanctuary. "She forgave me," she said suddenly. I blinked.
What?
Your mom. She sent me a letter. 3 years ago. My heart stopped. She never told me. I asked her not to.
Why?
Because I wasn't ready. Because I thought if you reached out, it had to be your decision. But you never did. And I respected that. But she, Sloane turned, eyes shining.
She told me you still talked about me sometimes.
When you thought no one was listening. She said she still hoped we'd find our way back to each other. My chest cracked open. Why are you telling me this? Because maybe it matters. Maybe it helps. I stood. My hands were shaking. You left me with nothing, Sloane. I know. You left me on a Tuesday morning. You kissed me like everything was fine, and then you vanished. I didn't sleep for weeks. I thought something had happened. I filed a missing person report. Her face crumbled. I didn't know. Because you didn't care. That's not true. You don't get to come back now and pretend this was a misunderstanding. I'm not pretending anything. I messed up. I destroyed everything good because I was terrified of being loved by someone like you. Someone like me? Someone who saw me,
Who really saw me.
who gave without asking anything in return. I wanted you to stay, I whispered. I begged you to stay. And I should have. I should have stayed and grown and fought and become someone worthy of you. You could have been all that if you just tried. I'm trying now. It's too late to pick up the pieces. Then let me build something new. You don't even know who I am anymore. I know you still flinch when people hug you too tight. I know you still sleep with a fan on even in winter. I know you tap your fingers when you're trying not to cry. I know your favorite sound in the world is wind through trees. And I know, she said, stepping so close I could feel the heat of her, that if you let me, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve a second chance. I wanted to tell her to leave. I wanted to scream. But instead I whispered, one night. That's all you get. Her eyes widened. Avery, one night. And then you go. No promises. No pretending. Okay, she said. One night. And God help me, I let her stay. The door clicked shut behind her, and suddenly the house felt smaller, the air denser, like the walls were listening. Sloane stood just inside the living room, hands in her coat pockets, eyes fixed on the floor like she didn't trust herself to meet mine again. I didn't trust her either. But trust had nothing to do with the way my heart raced. You can leave your coat there, I said, my voice low, controlled. She hesitated, then slid it off, draping it carefully over the back of the chair by the entry. The same chair she used to toss her jacket over when she'd walk in like this house was hers too, like we belonged in it together. I turned away before I could drown in the memory. Tea? I asked, already moving toward the kitchen. She followed me, slow steps echoing against the hardwood. Still chamomile? I asked.
Yeah, she said.
Still chamomile. I made it in silence. The air between us filled with everything we weren't saying. The kettle clicked off. I poured the water, handed her the mug, and our fingers brushed. Her eyes lifted. Mine didn't. We sat at the kitchen table like strangers forced into intimacy. I stared at the grain of the wood. She stared at me. This is surreal, she said. You being here, I said flatly, is the definition of surreal. I don't know what I expected, asking for one night. What did you expect? A door slammed in my face.
A slap.
You screaming. I thought about all three. Why didn't you? Because I'm tired. Of me. Of feeling like the ghost of you still lives in this house. Her eyes softened. I never stopped being in love with you. I didn't flinch. But I felt it. Sharp and clean, like a scalpel carving through scar tissue. You can't just say that and expect it to fix anything. I don't expect anything, she said. But I needed you to know. Why? Because it's true. And because if this is the last time I see you, I want to be honest for once. You should have been honest 7 years ago. I know. You should have stayed. I know. Silence again. And then, quietly. Did you ever stop? I looked at her. Stop what? Loving me. I tried. She exhaled shakily. I never even started. What the hell does that mean? I didn't know how to love you back then, she said. I thought I did. But all I knew was want. All I knew was fear. I loved the way you looked at me, the way you believed in me. But I didn't know how to hold it without ruining it. So you ran. So I ran. Do you know what you did to me? I can imagine. No, I said, voice rising. You can't. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I kept looking for your face in crowds. I started seeing a therapist because I thought maybe if I could just fix myself, maybe you'd come back. Avery, you broke me. And I hated you for it. I hated me too. That stopped me. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, her mug untouched. I left because I didn't think I could be who you needed. I thought if I stayed, I'd drag you down. And I didn't want to be the reason you stopped being the woman you were meant to become. You don't get to make that decision for me. I know that now. You think it's noble? That you left to protect me?
No, she said.
I think it was cowardly. I think I told myself lies to justify walking away. But not a day went by that I didn't regret it. I stared at her. Her face was older now, more tired. But the way she looked at me, it was the same. Like I was a lighthouse and she was still lost at sea. What happened to you after you left? I asked. I moved to New York. Tried to forget. Tried to start over. Did you?
No.
I wrote your name in the steam on every mirror. I dated people who made me feel nothing, just to prove I was numb. I stopped painting. You stopped. It didn't feel like art without you in it. I swallowed hard. You don't get to be poetic. I'm not trying to be. I'm just telling the truth. I stood, pushed away from the table, walked to the living room. I heard her follow. She didn't speak until I turned to face her. You know what the worst part is? I asked. I never stopped wondering what I did wrong, even after I moved on, even after I convinced myself I was fine. A part of me always waited for you to come back. And now that you're here, now what? Now I don't know if I want to scream or kiss you. Her eyes darkened. I'd take both. Don't joke. I'm not. I moved past her to the window. The moon was high. The same moon I used to watch with her from this exact spot. One night, I said. That's what you asked for. I know. So make it count. She crossed the room, stood behind me. Her breath was warm at the back of my neck. Avery, can I touch you? The question split me open. Yes, I whispered. Her fingers touched my wrist. Light. Careful. Like she was asking permission with every inch. She turned me slowly. Her hands found my waist. Mine found her shoulders. Tell me to stop, she said. I can't. She kissed me. And I let her. I let her mouth undo 7 years of silence. I let her hands pull me back into the place I swore I'd never return to. We kissed like we're on fire, like we had nothing left to lose but time. She pressed me into the wall, her body trembling against mine, and I didn't think. I just felt. I felt every year between us, every memory, every unsaid thing. Her mouth moved to my neck, my collarbone, and I gasped her name like a prayer and a curse. We made it to the bedroom like gravity pulled us there, like fate demanded it. We undressed each other slowly, reverently, not like before, not like we were rushing to claim each other, but like we were remembering what it felt like to be whole. When she touched me, I broke. When I touched her, she did too. And when we finally fell asleep tangled in sheets and breath and sweat and tears, I didn't know if I was healing or being shattered all over again. I just knew I wasn't alone. I woke before her. The room was dim, quiet, thick with the scent of her skin and the trace of something that clung to the sheets like memory. Her breath was slow, steady. She lay curled against me, one arm across my waist, her face half buried in the crook of my neck like she'd never left. Like we'd never broken. But we had. And now the pieces were scattered between us again, even after everything we'd said, everything we'd done. I didn't move. I couldn't. My body ached in that way it does when you've spent hours pretending you're not still in love with someone who once destroyed you. The weight of her arm around me should have felt wrong, suffocating. But instead it was the first time in weeks I felt like I was made of something solid again. Her fingers twitched lightly in her sleep, brushing my hip. I closed my eyes, tried to hold the moment a little longer. But the truth was already crawling under my skin. What now? What the hell do we do now? When she finally stirred, it was with a sigh that made my stomach twist. She lifted her head, blinked slowly, eyes catching mine in the gray light of early morning. And everything stilled. "Hey," she whispered, like we'd woken up together 1,000 times before. Like nothing had ever gone wrong. "Hey," I said, my voice wrecked. She reached out to brush a strand of hair from my face. I caught her wrist. Not hard, but firm.
"Don't," I said.
Her breath hitched. "Avery, I told you one night. That's all this was." "I know." "Then don't make it more." "I'm not trying to." She sat up slowly, her eyes never leaving mine. But it was more. I turned away, pulled the blanket around myself, even though I wasn't cold. "It was a mistake. You don't believe that. You don't get to tell me what I believe. Then tell me it meant nothing." I opened my mouth, closed it. She waited. I stayed silent. And that was my answer. She nodded, like she understood, even though I hadn't said a word. "Okay," she whispered. She stood, moving quietly around the room, picking up her clothes, dressing like it hurt. I watched her in the reflection of the mirror on my dresser, watched the curve of her back, the way her fingers trembled slightly when she buttoned her shirt. I hated that I still knew her like this. I hated how intimately my body remembered hers. When she finished, she paused by the door. "I'll go," she said. "Like you asked." I didn't speak. I couldn't. "But I need you to know something before I do." I looked up then. Her eyes were glassy. She looked wrecked. And I hated how much I wanted to run to her and fix it. "I never stopped loving you," she said. "Not once. Not even when I thought I had to." "Then why did you?" "Because I didn't think I was enough. And now, I don't know if I'll ever be." "You were enough for me," I whispered. "You just didn't believe it. I do now." "It's too late." "Maybe," she said. "But if there's even the smallest chance, if there's still something inside you that hasn't burned out yet, I'll wait. I'll wait until you tell me to stop." I didn't move. She left. The door closed gently behind her. I sat there in the stillness, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like her, and tried to remember how to breathe. The rest of the day passed in a blur. My aunt came by with boxes. There were more decisions to make, paperwork to sign, arrangements to finalize. I nodded when I was supposed to, smiled when I had to, but inside I was spiraling. That night, I found myself back in my mother's bedroom. I hadn't touched it since she passed. The room was exactly the same. Neat, quiet, full of the past. I sat on the edge of her bed, let my fingers brush the floral comforter, and let the silence settle. I needed her. God, I needed her voice, her steadiness, her way of knowing exactly when I was lying to myself. "You'd hate this," I whispered to the empty room. Me letting her back in, even for a second. But I wasn't sure that was true. My mom saw things I didn't. Maybe she knew I needed to break one more time before I could finally heal. On her desk, I noticed a small leather notebook I hadn't seen before. I flipped it open. Her handwriting stared back at me, pages and pages of letters she'd never sent. And near the middle, my name. The entry was dated a year ago. "Avery, you'll never read this, but if you do, I hope you forgive me someday. For how hard I was on you after Sloan left. I was angry, not at her, at the way she made you feel, at the way she cracked you open and left you bleeding. I didn't know how to help you, so I shut you down. I told you to forget her when I should have helped you grieve. The truth is, I saw how you looked at her, and I saw how she looked at you. I've never seen a love so terrifyingly beautiful. If she ever comes back, I hope you let yourself feel it again. Not because she deserves you, but because you deserve to love without fear." My vision blurred. The notebook slipped from my hands. I didn't cry often. Not really. But this time, I let it come. I let myself break open, and when the sobs faded, when my breath finally came back, I knew what I had to do. I grabbed my keys and left. I didn't text her. I didn't call. I just drove. Her hotel wasn't far. She answered the door in a t-shirt and sweatpants, eyes wide, shocked. "Avery, you said you'd wait." She nodded, breath caught. "I'm not ready," I said. "I'm still furious, still confused, still hurting." "I know, but I don't want to pretend last night didn't happen." Her eyes shined. "Then don't. I'm not promising anything. I don't want to promise. Just a chance. Then I'm here." She reached for my hand. I let her. And for the first time in 7 years, I didn't pull away. Her hand was warm in mine, grounding in a way that made everything else inside me feel unsteady. I stood there in the doorway of her hotel room, the chill of night air still clinging to my jacket, and for the first time in a very long time, I let myself stay in the moment without trying to predict how it might end. Sloane didn't move. She didn't pull me closer or let go. She just held my hand, like she understood how fragile this moment was. Like she knew that even one wrong breath could break it. Her voice was low when she finally spoke. "Come in, please." I stepped inside. The room was small, impersonal, barely lit. The curtains were half drawn, letting in the pale spill of moonlight across the carpet. Her sketchbook lay open on the desk, a pen tucked between the pages. I didn't ask what she'd been drawing. I didn't have to. "I don't know what I'm doing," I said as I slipped off my coat, folding it over the back of the chair without really looking at her.
"Me neither," she said.
"But you're here."
"Yeah."
"I am." We stood in silence for a beat too long. Her eyes didn't leave mine, but I could feel the restraint in her body, the way she was holding herself back like every cell was begging to move toward me. "I found something," I said. "At my mom's. In her room." "What was it?" "A letter."
"To me. About you."
Sloane tensed but didn't speak. She said she was sorry for the way she handled it when you left. She said she was angry, but not at you, at how much it hurt me. "She hated me," Sloane whispered. "No," I said. "She didn't. She was scared you'd ruin me. And maybe for a while you did. But she saw how I loved you. And I think some part of her loved you for that too." Her mouth parted, but no words came out. She said if you ever came back, she hoped I'd let myself feel it again. Sloane closed her eyes, and for a moment, she looked like someone who'd been holding her breath for years. "Avery, I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, stepping closer. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I want to know if this thing between us, this pull, this ache, if it's still real. Or if it's just the past playing tricks on me." She reached for me, slow, careful. Her fingers brushed my wrist again, the same way they had in the kitchen that night. "It's real," she whispered. "It never stopped being real." My breath caught. "Then show me." She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't hesitate. Her lips found mine with a gentleness that was somehow more devastating than the first time. There was no hunger in it. No urgency. Just a quiet reverence, like she was afraid I might vanish in her hands. I kissed her back.
Soft. Slow.
Scared. We moved together like people relearning a language they once knew by heart. She led me to the bed, our hands never separating, our mouths never far. When we undressed each other this time, it wasn't desperate. It wasn't reckless. It was intentional, deliberate. She peeled the fabric from my skin like it was sacred. I memorized the lines of her body, like I was afraid they might change again. We didn't speak. The only sound was breath and the rustle of sheets and the way my name broke in her throat when I kissed the scar on her shoulder I'd always loved. She whispered "I'm sorry" more than once, and I let her say it, not because I was ready to forgive her, but because she needed to say it. We held each other in the aftermath, limbs tangled, our skin still hot, our bodies impossibly close. But even then there was space between us. Not physical, emotional. Like we both knew this wasn't a solution. It was a pause. A breath before the question we were too scared to ask. "What now?" she asked, her fingers tracing lazy patterns along my spine. Now I try to sleep, I whispered, because I haven't really slept since she died. She pulled me tighter against her. Then let me help you rest. Just for tonight. And I did. For the first time in weeks, I let my eyes close beside someone. I didn't count my breaths. I didn't wake up gasping. I let her warmth hold me, let her breathing lull me, and I slept. In the morning, I woke before the sun. I watched her sleep for a long time. Her face was peaceful, her hair a dark halo against the pillow. She looked so different from the version of her that haunted my memories. And yet, she was still her. The girl who kissed me on a rooftop at 18. The woman who ran when I needed her most. The person who broke me and was now asking for a second chance. I slipped out of bed and sat on the floor by the window, watching the sky shift from ink to ash to gold. I didn't know what I wanted. Not really. But I knew what I felt. I knew that part of me still loved her. Maybe always would. And maybe that was enough. Or maybe it wasn't. When she woke, she found me there, cross-legged on the floor, wrapped in one of the hotel blankets, eyes fixed on the morning sky. You always did that, she said, voice rough with sleep. Watch the sun like it owed you something. Maybe it does. What do you want from it? Clarity. She sat beside me, her shoulder warm against mine. And what do you want from me? I turned to her. Time. Take all of it. I didn't smile, but I reached for her hand. And when our fingers twined, it didn't feel like a promise. It felt like a beginning. Time, it turned out, was both a gift and a curse. Sloane didn't press me after that morning. She didn't ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. She didn't ask to come home with me, or to stay longer than I could handle. She just watched me with that quiet, steady intensity, like she knew we were balancing on something delicate and didn't want to move too fast and break it. I went back to my mother's house alone that afternoon. It felt heavier now, not because Sloane was gone, but because she'd been there. Her presence still clung to the air, woven into the memory of our laughter and our silence, and the way her hands had touched mine like I was something precious. I spent the day sorting through boxes I'd avoided for weeks. Old photos, yellowed letters, things that smelled like the past. Every time I found something of mine, an old school drawing, a childhood birthday card, my chest twisted. Every time I found something of hers, it broke. By nightfall, I was raw. I sat on the floor with a blanket wrapped around my shoulders and a shoebox full of her journals in my lap. I wasn't ready to read them yet. I didn't want to open the last parts of her that I never got to know. But I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd written about Sloane. I saw how she looked at you. I've never seen a love so terrifyingly beautiful. What does that even mean? Terrifyingly beautiful. Like a fire you want to touch even though you know it'll burn. Like a storm you step into because calm never felt like enough. My phone buzzed. A text from Sloane. I'm still here if you need me. I stared at it for a long time before replying. I don't know what I need. The dots appeared. Then vanished. Then came back. Then I'll be what you don't know yet. That night, I didn't sleep. Again. But I didn't text her. I couldn't. The next morning, I stepped outside for air and found a bag of my favorite croissants hanging from the porch railing. No note. No explanation. But I knew. I didn't eat them. Not right away. I just stared at them and wondered how something so small could feel so intimate. So dangerous. I didn't hear from her the rest of the day. Or the next. And the silence started to feel like its own kind of question. The third day, I walked into town. Not because I wanted to see her. Not really. But because I wanted to know if she was still here. I found her by accident. In the gallery window on 5th Street. She was standing just inside, talking to the curator, her hand gesturing to something I couldn't see. I stepped closer. And froze. The painting was of me. Not literal. Not a portrait. But I knew it was me. A figure curled under a tree, surrounded by twilight and memory and something that felt like longing. My throat tightened. She turned then, saw me. She didn't smile. She didn't move. Just looked at me through the glass like maybe she wasn't sure if I'd disappear. I walked inside. The curator stepped away without a word. We stood there in silence. "You painted this," I said.
Yeah.
"Why?" "Because I needed to remember you as more than the girl I left. So you put me in a frame." "No," she said softly. "I put you somewhere safe. So I couldn't forget." My pulse raced. This is a bad idea. Probably. But I'm still here. So am I. I looked at the painting again. It's beautiful. So were you, that night. I'm not that girl anymore. I know, but I think I love this version even more. My heart stuttered. Don't say that. Why not? Because I don't know what to do with it. Then don't do anything. Just stand here with me. I did. We didn't touch. We didn't kiss. We just stood, breathing the same air, surrounded by art and silence, and something that felt like the truth. I walked out first. She didn't follow. But she didn't stop me either. That night, I found another message. If you need space, I'll give you oceans. If you need time, I'll give you years. But if you need me, I'm one word away. I didn't answer. But I didn't delete it either. I started writing again. Not full essays. Not stories. Just fragments. Thoughts. Pieces of conversations that might happen one day. I hated you for leaving. But I hated myself more for hoping you'd come back. You ruined me. And I still wanted you to see what I became from the wreckage that I don't know if we can start over. But I want to see what we might become if we try. The funeral was over. The guests were gone. My mother's house was almost empty. And I was still standing in the wreckage of everything I thought I'd buried. On the 7th day after the service, I stood outside Sloane's hotel again. I didn't knock. I just texted, "Are you awake?" She opened the door before I could take a breath. "Yeah," she said. "I've been waiting." I stepped inside. "I don't want to forgive you yet. That's okay. But I don't want to keep pretending I don't want to try." She reached for me, not with her hands, but with her eyes. "Then let's try." I nodded. "But it has to be real this time." No disappearing. No silence. "No lies," she said. "Only us.
Raw.
Unfinished. Trying. Scared. So scared. But together." "Yeah," she whispered. "Together." And when she kissed me this time, it wasn't about longing. It was about choice. About stepping into the storm with our eyes open and hands clasped. Not because it was easy, but because we'd finally stopped running from the fire. Trying was messier than I expected. It wasn't grand declarations or movie scene reconciliations. It was awkward pauses, misread silences, the sudden fear that one wrong word might tear open everything we were still too fragile to name. But Sloane didn't run. Not this time. And I didn't shut down. Not completely. We started small. Mornings with coffee between us, but miles of space we hadn't bridged yet. Short walks through town where our fingers didn't touch, but our shoulders brushed just enough to remind us we were still real. Conversations that started with the past and ended with both of us staring at the floor, wondering if the next word might be the one that unravels everything. I kept sleeping in my mother's house. She stayed at the hotel. Every night, we parted with hesitant goodbyes that carried weight they hadn't before. Because now we both knew that choosing space didn't mean choosing distance. Not anymore. One night, I found her sitting on the steps of the gallery, sketchbook in her lap, pencil tapping against the cover. She didn't see me at first. Her face was caught in that trance I remembered from our early 20s, the one she fell into when she was thinking too hard and trying not to feel too much. "You always did this," I said as I approached. She looked up, startled, but smiled. "What?" "Sat outside in the cold like it wouldn't catch you. Some things don't change. Some things do." She nodded, and I sat beside her. "What are you drawing?" I asked. "Nothing yet." "Liar." She handed me the sketchbook. The page was half finished, a rough pencil outline of me. Not from today. Not from now. From years ago. Long hair, the little scar above my eyebrow, that expression I used to wear when I didn't think anyone was looking. "Why that version?" I asked. "Because I miss her." I tensed. You don't get to say that. I know. But I do. I miss who you were. And I'm falling for who you've become. My throat tightened. You make it sound easy. It's not. But it's honest. We sat in silence, the sound of wind brushing through empty branches above us. I watched her fingers, the way they flexed and curled. She wasn't holding her pencil anymore. Just holding still. You want to come by tomorrow? I asked. To my mom's. I could use help with the last of the packing. She didn't smile, but her eyes lit with something soft.
Yeah.
I'd like that. The next day, she showed up with coffee and a new bruise on her knuckle. Door handle fought me, she said. Lost. I rolled my eyes and let her in. The house was quieter than usual, as if it knew the end was near. We tackled the kitchen first. Old dishes, expired spices, drawers full of memories I wasn't ready to face. She worked beside me in silence, only speaking when I did, never pushing. When I found a photo of my mother holding me as a baby, I sank to the floor. Sloane joined me.
She didn't speak.
Just sat close, her thigh against mine, her warmth a tether. She'd hate that you're here, I said eventually. She'd pretend not to. But she would. Maybe. But I don't. She looked at me then, her expression unreadable. You don't what? Hate that you're here. Her breath caught. I thought you did.
Sometimes I want to.
But I think what hurts more is that I don't. Avery, I spent years telling myself that if you ever came back, I'd make you bleed the way I did. That I'd be cold. That I'd be stronger. You are strong.
No.
I'm not. I let you back in. That's strength, she whispered. Letting herself feel again? That's braver than shutting it all off. I leaned against her shoulder. We stayed like that for a long time, surrounded by boxes and dust and the quiet ache of everything we couldn't say yet. That night, I let her stay. Not in the bed.
Not yet.
But on the couch. In the same house. Under the same roof. I listened to her breathing from the next room, my body too aware of the space between us, and I didn't sleep. The next morning, I found her in the kitchen, barefoot, pouring coffee like she belonged there. Like she still belonged.
Morning, she said.
You always hated mornings. I hate the sound of people in the morning. You're quiet. Old habit. I took a sip of coffee. I think I'm afraid. Of what? That we'll do this.
Try. Love.
And it'll fall apart again. It might. I don't think I could survive losing you twice. She set her mug down, stepped close, her hands curling lightly around my waist. Then don't lose me. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll fight harder this time. I searched her eyes. Even when it gets ugly? Especially then. Even if I can't give you all of me yet, then I'll take what you can give and protect it with everything I have. I closed my eyes. Let myself lean into her. What do we tell people? I asked. That we're trying. That's not very romantic. No, she said, kissing my forehead. But it's real. We didn't talk about the future.
Not yet.
We didn't make plans or declarations or anything that could shatter if said too loudly. We just kept showing up. One day at a time. And maybe that was enough.
For now.
Word got out faster than I expected. Small towns are like that, quiet until they're not. All it took was one sighting, one whisper over coffee at the corner cafe, and suddenly everyone had an opinion about Sloane Hart showing her face again.
About me letting her stay.
About how I was going back to what broke me. I tried not to care. Tried to keep my head down, my heart calm, my focus on the slow rebuilding of something I still wasn't sure how to name. But the voices crept in anyway. Overheard conversations. Lingering looks at the grocery store. The ache in my aunt's eyes when she came by and saw Sloane's sketchpad on the kitchen table. You know I love you, she said softly. But are you sure this is what your mom would have wanted? I didn't answer. Because the truth was I didn't know. Some days, it felt like my mother's voice echoed in every corner of the house, and other days I couldn't hear her at all. It's not about what she would have wanted, I finally said. It's about what I want. My aunt sighed. And what is that? I didn't know how to explain it. The way Sloane looked at me now like she was seeing everything she'd once missed. The way she didn't push when I pulled back. The way she left little notes on the fridge, soft reminders that love didn't have to be loud to be real. Got you oat milk. Yes, I still remember. Your keys are by the door. I didn't touch anything else, promise. You fell asleep with your mouth open. It was still the most beautiful thing I've seen all week. I wanted to want someone else. Someone newer. Easier. But I didn't. I wanted her. Even if it made no sense. Even if it hurt. One afternoon, we drove out to the lake. It was her idea. You need air, she said. Real air. The kind that makes your lungs forget how to carry grief. She packed a blanket and sandwiches, and one of my mom's old thermoses filled with tea. We didn't speak much on the drive. The silence was easy now. Comfortable. The kind that doesn't ask to be filled. We sat by the water for hours, watching it move, listening to birds and wind, and the occasional whisper of a memory we were both trying not to say out loud. She reached for my hand without looking. I let her take it. You used to talk about this place like it was heaven, she said. It was, I replied. Before everything fell apart. Maybe we find a new heaven. Just ours. That's a dangerous kind of hope. I like dangerous things. Yeah, I said. I remember. She smiled.
Soft. Sad.
We didn't kiss. Not there. Not yet. But the space between us felt fragile again. Fragile in a way that meant it mattered. The next day, it all came crashing in. I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years.
Claire.
The girl I dated after Sloane. The one who picked up the pieces of me and tried to put them back together without ever realizing they weren't hers to fix. I heard she's back, she said.
Her voice was calm.
But her eyes were ice. Yeah, I replied. She is. And you're just letting her stay? It's not your business. Maybe not. But I cared about you. You left. Because you couldn't stop looking over your shoulder for her. That one stung. I thought she was gone for good, I said. So did I. Claire stepped closer. Don't let her break you again. You think I don't know what's at stake? I think you want to believe in something that already proved it can't survive. I didn't respond. She walked away. And I stood there, frozen, wondering if she was right. That night, I didn't speak to Sloane. I couldn't. I curled up in my bed, facing the wall, the silence pressing in like a weight. She didn't come in. She didn't knock. But in the morning, she was gone. Not all her things. Just her coat. A note on the kitchen counter. I'll be back later.
Take your time.
I love you. I stared at those last 3 words for a long time. I love you. Present tense. Not past. Not future.
Now.
When she came back, it was raining. Her hair was damp. Her coat smelled like earth and thunder. I was sitting on the stairs when she walked in. You left, I said. You didn't want me here. That's not true. You were silent, because I was scared. She sat beside me, not touching. Do you regret it? She asked. Letting me back in? No, she let out a breath. Do you hate me again? No, then what? I'm tired of being reminded that everyone else thinks this is a mistake. Are you listening to them? Sometimes. Then don't. It's not that easy. I know. I turned to her. Her face was damp. Her cheeks pink from the cold. She looked beautiful. And wrecked. And real. Why are you still here? I asked. Because I love you, she said. Because I'll keep loving you even if it hurts. Even if you wake up one day and realize you can't do this. I'll still love you. That sounds painful. It is. And worth it. Always. I didn't cry. I didn't fall apart. I just leaned forward and kissed her. Slow.
Certain.
Like I finally understood what those 3 words meant when they came from her mouth. She kissed me back. And when she pulled away, her forehead rested against mine. You're everything, she whispered. Even now. Especially now, I said. And for the first time, I let the world be quiet. Let the voices fade. Let her stay. It's strange how love returns. Not like lightning, Not like fireworks, but like a tide, slow, steady, undeniable. You don't notice it at first. You're too busy bracing for the wave that'll wreck you again. But one morning, you wake up and the shore has changed. And you realize you've been swimming in it all along. That's how it felt with Sloane. A quiet return. A building warmth. Less about grand declarations, more about the tiny, constant choice to stay. To keep showing up. But the problem with tides is that they also pull. And soon, I could feel the undertow, subtle but there. The way her eyes lingered longer than usual on open roads. The way she hesitated before confirming any plan that extended more than a week into the future. The way she watched me like she was counting days instead of making them. One morning, I caught her staring at her phone. Not scrolling. Just staring. I leaned on the doorway. Everything okay? She looked up too fast, smiled too bright. Yeah. Fine. You're lying. Habit. Don't. She set the phone down. There's a gallery in Portland. They reached out. Want to do a feature. It's kind of a big deal. My chest tightened. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're going? They want me for 3 months. Silence. Not the soft kind. The kind that stretches and echoes. When were you going to tell me? I asked. I wasn't sure I should. Why? Because I knew this moment would feel like betrayal. You said you weren't leaving. I'm not. Not like before. You'll be across the country. It's not forever. It was last time. I'm not that person anymore. Aren't you? I hated how fast the anger came. Hated the way my voice broke around it. Avery, I want to stay. But I also want to be me again. I want to show my work. I want to make something that lasts. We're making something that lasts. I know. But I can't build it by shrinking myself. I sat down, suddenly tired. So you'll leave. And what happens to this? She knelt in front of me.
Took my hands.
This doesn't disappear just because I fly somewhere else. I love you. I'll still love you from anywhere. Words are easy. Then let me prove them. Long distance doesn't work. It didn't work last time because I left you. I cut you out. This time, I want you in it. All of it. Daily calls. Letters. Visits. Shared playlists. Whatever it takes. I stared at her. You'd really go knowing it might break us again? I'd go hoping it wouldn't. And if I ask you to stay? Her eyes burned. Don't. Why not? Because I'd say yes. And I'd resent you for it. That was the hardest truth. The one that cut deepest. Because I knew she was right. Sloane's heart was built to move. Built to run her hands through wind and paint her grief onto canvas and chase the edge of whatever came next. And maybe this was the test. Not to hold her tighter, but to let her go and believe she'd come back. When? I asked. 2 weeks. So soon? They want me for the fall exhibit. And you'll go? Only if you tell me to. I stood. Moved past her. My heart was pounding too loud to hear myself think. I need time, I said. Okay. I don't know what I want. I'll wait until you do. She stayed the night, but didn't sleep beside me. She curled up on the couch like she had that first time. I stared at the ceiling and tried not to picture a future where she was gone again. The next few days passed like molasses, slow, sticky, filled with everything we didn't say. We still ate dinner together, still shared coffee in the morning, but our fingers didn't touch. Our eyes didn't linger. We were already practicing the distance. The night before her flight, she packed in silence. I watched from the doorway, arms crossed over my chest, my nails digging into my palms. You could still say no, I whispered. So could you. I'm scared. So am I. But you're going anyway. Because I believe in us. What if I don't know how to be in love with someone who isn't here? Then I'll spend every day reminding you that I am. She zipped the suitcase closed. Looked at me. I love you, Avery. Say it again. I love you. I walked to her, took her face in my hands, kissed her like it was both a goodbye and a beginning. I love you too. We didn't sleep. We stayed up watching bad movies, wrapped in a blanket, her head on my shoulder, my heart slowly breaking in a way that felt oddly peaceful. At the airport, I didn't cry.
She did.
"You'll come visit?" she asked. "Only if you want me to. I want everything with you." "Then go," I said. "Make it worth it." She kissed me once more, pressed her forehead to mine, and whispered, "Don't fall out of love while I'm gone." "Not possible," I whispered back. And then she was gone.
Just like that.
But this time, the space she left behind wasn't empty. It was full of memory, of hope, of something that still belonged to us. And I let myself believe, really believe, that she would come back. And that maybe, just maybe, this time we'd make it. The house was quiet without her. Not empty, just different. The kind of silence that wraps itself around you slowly, makes you pause before every step, makes you notice the small things, like how much earlier the afternoons darken now, or how one side of the bed stays perfectly made. I didn't cry the day Sloane left. I didn't cry the next day either. But by day 5, I found myself in the kitchen, holding her coffee mug in both hands, and the tears came like a storm that had waited too long. I missed her laugh, low and throaty, when something genuinely caught her off guard. I missed the way she'd hum when she sketched, tuneless and soft, like a secret song only she knew. I missed the way she touched me, lightly, constantly, like she was making sure I was still real. We called, every night, no matter what time it was. Even if she'd just come from a gallery meeting or I'd had a long, sleepless day sorting out the last of the estate paperwork. We talked. And when we didn't have words, we just listened to each other breathe. Sometimes I fell asleep with my phone pressed to my ear, her voice the last thing I heard. Sometimes she texted me in the middle of the night with a photo of the moon in a different sky. Still watching the same one even from here. The distance didn't make the ache go away, but it turned the ache into something sharp and alive. Something that reminded me I had someone to miss. Someone who missed me back. The day of her opening came fast. I didn't tell her I was coming. She'd invited me, of course. Said she'd understand if I couldn't make it. But I booked the ticket anyway. I told myself it wasn't about proving anything. It was about showing up. I arrived 30 minutes early and stood outside the gallery watching her through the glass. She was radiant, nervous, excited, surrounded by strangers and lights and walls full of her soul. She laughed at something the curator said and tilted her head in that way I remembered from every version of her I'd ever known. She looked alive. I almost turned around, almost convinced myself this was enough, to see her thriving. But she turned, and our eyes met. And suddenly there was no space between us at all. She walked straight toward me, threading through the crowd, her expression unreadable until she reached the door and pulled it open. "You came," she breathed. "Of course I did." She cupped my face in both hands. "You didn't say anything. I wanted to see the look on your face. It's a miracle I didn't faint." I laughed. God, it felt good to laugh with her again. "You're the most beautiful thing in this room," I whispered. "That's not true." "It is. Because this." I gestured to the walls, to her name in gold lettering, to the art that bled emotion. "This is you. All of you. And I've never seen anything more beautiful." Her eyes burned. "You're the reason I remembered how to be this version of me." "No," I said, taking her hand. "You did that on your own. I just stood still long enough to let you find your way back." She pulled me into the room, and people parted for us like they could feel the gravity between our bodies. She showed me every piece, her fingers brushing the canvas like a prayer. "This one's for your mother," she said at one point. It was a watercolor. Subtle.
Strong.
A garden in bloom, but with shadows in the corners. "She scared me," Sloane admitted. "But I think she loved you more fiercely than anything else in the world. And I wanted to honor that." I couldn't speak. I just squeezed her hand. When the exhibit ended, and the lights dimmed, and the last guests drifted out, she turned to me in the middle of the now empty gallery and whispered, "Come home with me. I thought you were staying in Portland a while." "Not without you." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure." "What about your work?" "I'll paint wherever you are." "You'll get tired of me." Impossible. You said that once before. And I meant it then. But I didn't know how to hold it. Now I do. I stepped into her. Let my hands find her waist. Let my mouth find hers. The kiss wasn't frantic. It wasn't desperate. It was a promise.
Quiet.
Unshakable. Let's go home, I said. She nodded. Let's start over. But it wasn't starting over.
Not really.
It was continuing. Rebuilding. Stitching new days into old scars. A month later, she moved back. Not into my mother's house. We both agreed it held too many ghosts. We found a new place. Small. Light-filled. With enough room for her paints and my books, and the kind of quiet we'd learned how to live inside. We didn't rush. We didn't pretend everything was healed. But we loved each other through the messy middle. We cooked together. Took long walks without always holding hands. She read my writing. I watched her paint. Some nights we fought. Some nights we cried. But every morning she was there. And so was I. One night, curled in bed, her head on my chest, she whispered, "Do you think it was fate?"
What? Us.
Finding our way back. I smiled. No. I think it was choice. That sounds less romantic. It's the most romantic thing there is. Because we could have walked away. We had every reason to, but we stayed. We chose to stay. She kissed my ribs. Then I'll keep choosing you. Even when it's hard? Especially then. Even when I'm still scared? That's when I'll hold you closer. I blinked into the dark, heart full in a way I hadn't thought possible. I love you, Sloane. I love you, Avery. Forever. One day at a time. That was all we needed. And for the first time in 7 years, I really knew, that I wasn't waiting for love anymore. I was living it. Fully. Freely. Unapologetically. With the only person who ever made my heart feel like home. Thank you so much for your support, whether it's by liking, commenting, sharing, or sending your super thanks. You make all the difference here on the channel. See you in the next video.